Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post. Hollywood workers panic, got fired, now getting turned down for normal jobs. Hollywood has been laying off thousands and thousands of employees. They're also not making as much as they used to make, and they're not even making as much of it in California anymore. So a lot of people are getting laid off. And I've covered a number of these stories where people are now moving into other industries and getting other jobs. But it looks like not everybody in Hollywood is actually cutting it in regular jobs. Even in jobs in a grocery store chain like Whole Foods. How could they not be able to get a job at Whole Foods, especially when there seems to be difficulty hiring people in the first place? A lot of them are out of touch with working in a normal environment, so normal employers are staying away from them. From The Hollywood Reporter, struggling entertainment workers are fleeing Hollywood, but some employers balk at showbiz backgrounds. Because how is a showbiz background going to apply to normal work? Somehow, they haven't figured that out yet. As major companies cut costs and production continues to lag, professionals who have already achieved success in entertainment are applying for jobs in project management, marketing, and even at Whole Foods. Most people know and understand that when you have a resume, your resume has to suit the kind of employer that you're looking for. So it's different if you're going to go work for some production company in Hollywood than if you're going to go work at Whole Foods or if you're going to work at a marketing company. These are different places to work. First, you have to look at what it is that they actually do and try to make sure whatever it is that you're going to offer them as an employee, because you're there to offer them a service, your time. You have to make sure that the service of your time is worth what they're looking for. And you can't just use Hollywood terms on your resumes. Most of us know this who've been in any kind of professional environment. Usually when you hit like 21 years old, someone's had this conversation with you. But if they haven't, make sure you Google how to write a good resume in case you actually ever need to put a resume together. These people don't know how to do it. In November of last year, facing the longest bout of unemployment she'd ever experienced, Paulina Williams was seriously considering what she would do if she had to leave the entertainment industry. The veteran reality television executive producer and showrunner with about 20 years of experience on projects like Laguna Beach, The Real Orange County, and Big Brother recalls her husband asking her at some point, "But why don't you try to do something that you've always wanted to do and you never had a chance?" She responded, "Honey, this is what I've always wanted to do. I've been working my dream job my entire career." Hollywood has long been full of upstart creative people who work side hustles, waiting tables, driving Ubers, to sustain themselves before they make a livable wage in the business. But now, amid a brutal and prolonged contraction in the entertainment industry, a twist on that rite of passage is occurring. Workers who have already achieved success and expertise in the business have been looking for work on the outside as a stopgap, side hustle, or a long-term solution. The data on how Hollywood has cut back in the past few years has been bad. Between the first quarters of 2022 and 2024, during which time the industry sustained two crippling strikes and the bursting of the streaming bubble, employment in California's film and television and sound sector dropped nearly 30%, according to Otis College of Art and Design research. This year, production levels are still lagging behind their pre-strike highs. On-location filming in the Los Angeles area during the third quarter of 2024 dropped more than 36% compared to the 5-year average of that same period. While a ProdPro report found that production volume across the U.S. dropped 35% in the third quarter of 2024 compared with the same period in 2022 before the strikes. A cut of 1/3 from before the strikes? That is a massive, massive cut. If unemployment, for example, was 33%, you'd notice it. I mean, that's depression levels. Faced with these challenges, some of the business are retooling their resumes from a classic production format, which assumes the reader's familiarity with the business and often entails a long list of credits, to a more corporate layout that briefly describes responsibilities and highlights certain skills that they developed. Can you imagine being a regular, normal employer and looking at someone's resume and all they're listing is movie production credits on it? I worked on this TV show. I worked on that TV show. It's like, okay, one thing you don't want to be doing to an employer is making them figure out what your experience might be. You need to sell yourself to them. So your first focus is, What would they consider to be good? They already told you when they had the job listing, however you found out about the opportunity. And then you must present yourself in writing in your resume looking like you are something that they actually already want. You can't put an employer in a position where they have to figure out if maybe you can or can't do the job. It should appear that you can do the job, and you can't be overqualified and you can't be too underqualified. It has to really be a good fit. And sometimes it's just not a good fit, but you have to at least make it look like it's a good fit and make sure it's not just a miscommunication that you don't get an opportunity that you really want to have or that you might really, really need. Laid off employees are translating what specific roles on set or in industry offices mean to employers who don't speak entertainment. Quote, when you say, I work in development, they think you're a fundraiser, says former casting and development executive Lauren Cotlin, who had been working perma-freelance since November 2023, meaning just freelance forever, and is exploring content development and talent relations opportunities in marketing, advertising, and digital media companies. Reasons Williams, quote, if I'm a showrunner, what does a showrunner do? Well, we're project managers. Any producer is a project manager on some level. As a result, Williams has taken a project management professional certification course during her job search, which is a good move because she had to do that because her experience wasn't translating. She could tell people she did project management, but without that little certification certificate, which she did not get from her previous job, and she's not known in this other new industry, she needs that if she wants to get a job doing project management. Other job seekers are wondering whether having entertainment credits on their resumes helps or hurts their chances of finding other work. I can tell you right now, if it's not the same industry, you should not have any industry conventions tied up with your resume. It makes you look like you don't understand why you're sitting in front of a potential employer. They really are serious. They're there for business. They shouldn't have to figure you out. You have to make their lives easy. Every employer really is looking for employees to help make their lives easy, to help keep their promises to their customers. That's what you're there for. If you work for the company, you're not there just to look good or to have a good time, of course. And it's got to be worth more value to them than the money that it costs them to have you there. So just present yourself like this is what you can do for them and then answer their questions. And that's your best possible shot. Some job seekers have noticed hesitation on the part of select employers due to their showbiz backgrounds, which they attribute to a perception that they're just looking for temporary jobs during the contraction, which for the most part, of course they are. At an interview for a Whole Foods overnight restocking position, production manager of 24 years, Cindy Lewis, says she was asked, quote, what happens if you get a call for a show or the industry bounces back? She says, quote, they fear that I'm going to put in my notice and bounce. Well, of course she would. She's going to work overnight in a Whole Foods restocking the shelves rather than take a production job where she's got 24 years in that industry. Of course they will. But that's a very normal question for an employer to ask. The employer is not there trying to figure out how to make your career happen for you. Your employer is there because your employer is trying to get value for your time. And that is the most obvious question that an employer would ask is, are you going to be steady at this job because we don't want to put resources into training with you, dealing with you, investing in you only for a month or two later for you to say, I'm going to go somewhere else because they could have just hired someone else and not someone who wasn't serious about taking the position long term. When I hire people, I always talk to them about a long-term arrangement. And you'd be surprised, most people are honest about that. Sydney Lewis recently worked in concessions at Universal Studios Hollywood's Halloween Horror Nights with the goal of making it through a probationary period, after which she can apply for backlot jobs at the studio. It doesn't sound like she was a top-level executive in Hollywood. Beth Kushnick, a renowned set decorator with credits on The Good Wife and Fringe, has long worked part-time gigs in addition to her production work. She's currently doing interior design for private clients, staging apartments, and working on an upcoming event for a commercial business in the absence of industry jobs. But at one point recently, she says, quote, I was up for a very big job out east, and they were afraid that I was going to get a movie. The Entertainment Community Fund Career Center's managing director, Elena Muslar, has seen entertainment workers sometimes react to difficulties like these simply by omitting their experience in the business, creating gaps in their resume. Musla recommends instead that the ECF Career Center's participants tailor their descriptions of past experiences to whatever field they're looking to enter in their resumes. Rather than leading with, quote, I'm an actor who will need time off, for instance, she suggests a performer could describe themselves as kind of an entrepreneur. Well, I don't know if you say I'm an entrepreneur, so I might not stay on the job makes any sense. I don't know that it would make any sense to say that you're an actor either. You should always try to be honest about what's going on with your life and what's going on with your employer. Because, for example, if they hire you and you say, 3 weeks later, you tell them, I forgot to tell you, I'm taking a trip with family. I can't work next week or for the week after that. Employers don't like that. Just be upfront when they're being hired. It also gives the employer the opportunity to say, okay, well, I don't want to work with you, at least not right now. If you're waiting on getting another job and you're going to know for sure, like in 2 weeks, let's talk again in 2 weeks. And if you don't get that other job, if that's a much better opportunity for you, then maybe I can hire you and we can go forward with this. There can be emotional hurdles for workers who decide to step a foot outside the business, even if they're not leaving entirely or forever. Quote, I think the biggest challenge is more about people's mindset, says Christina Blummer, the executive director of the Will Rogers Motion Pictures Pioneers Foundation, which offers grants for career counseling or retraining to professionals in the theatrical, exhibition, distribution, and vendor spaces. Quote, people have this idea that I work in the movie industry and this is what I do. And what's really challenging for folks is that emotional attachment, to try to shift that or say circumstances have changed, because it's part of your identity. It is part of not just what you do, it's part of who you are. It is a difficult change. Hollywood has been very bad to the country for the last several years. Not necessarily all of these individual people. Who knows? We don't know these people individually. It's difficult when people lose their identity. They lose like what they're all about and what their career is. But it's Hollywood, and we need to see Hollywood destroyed. So we will continue. Entertainment workers aren't all useless. They bring particular strengths too to their job search. Workers who've come from Hollywood can already be focused on tapping personal networks. They always say it's who you know in Hollywood, it's who you know anywhere, says Kotlin. They bring a creative skill set, notes ECF's Muslar. Fields that are particularly in demand right now are project management, digital marketing, creative direction, teaching artistry, arts administration, and other types of content creation, Muslar adds, all of which can transfer skills people have developed in entertainment. And that's fair to say. And the additional certification, say for project management, that also makes sense. This industry is not bouncing back. Not like in a year or two, not like in 5 or 10 years. In 5 or 10 years, who knows how much of artificial intelligence is going to replace almost everyone's work in Hollywood? We don't know, but it's not going to get better. And there aren't going to be necessarily more jobs. For about a year, Caitlin Saltzman, the head of scripted at WV Entertainment, has worked a side hustle that complements her day job. During the double strikes in 2023, as she saw friends being laid off and had a lot more time on her hands, the executive decided to develop both a hobby and an additional professional skill set. She ended up taking up an activity she hadn't pursued since high school, photography. Now, Saltzman shoots clients on the weekends and edits her photos after her kids go to bed. She says her photography and executive work, quote, they're both visual storytelling. I really try to capture personalities that come through in the photos, and I very much think that my career in television has a big part to do with why I'm able to do that. She's absolutely right. There are skills like that do transfer. Storytelling is universal. Not universal in the movie studio, the skill set is universal. In the past few years, veteran makeup artist Alexis Walker has developed a business as a professional coach with a special focus on Hollywood workers looking to pivot. In this work, she found 2 main themes: clients looking for ways to apply their skills in a new field and to strike a, quote, balancing act of straddling 2 worlds, where they still do some Hollywood work while developing an outside business. She's also the creator of the Hollywood Second Act Club podcast, which showcases interviews with industry professionals who've pursued endeavors outside of traditional movie and television work. It's great to focus, but it's also great to have more than one way to make money and more than one industry or more than one thing that you know very well. Also to have networks in more than one place. Contacts, people you know, people you could call on, and people who can call on you. Good relationships. In her view, the initial reaction to this slowdown was, quote, sitting duck stunned for a long time and blindsided and paralyzed, understandably. But now she says, quote, I think you're going to start seeing a lot more inspired action as people come awake to the moment and what this means for them. And it's not just being mean to the people in Hollywood. Yes, there are many people in Hollywood that have done tremendous amounts of damage to the American culture. No matter what, that industry is not going back to where it was. It's not going to have the power, the authority, and the influence that it used to have. For the people that lost their jobs in Hollywood, they're not getting them back. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another story. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.